Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. It's Marie with Swipe in the City.
You've got Michelle in the studio today, and we're actually recording from a special location. We are still in our building.
We're never not in our building.
We're really not in the building. We just record from various studios in this in the Bell building. But we have a special guest, a very good friend of mine who I acquired, as I do, by following him and his dog down the hallway.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know this story? Well, I would like him to tell the story. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Kyle. Are we doing last names? Okay.
Whatever you want.
So one of my friends was actually visiting. I just moved into the building, and we're walking from the parking garage into the hallway, and I see this truck dropping someone off, and she's following us into the hallway, and she's like, "Are you new here?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Well, my name is Michelle. I'm the mayor of the building."
I wish you guys could see my face right now.
And here we are.
Oh my god, that sounds like you.
It's very on brand. It's gonna be real weird in 5 years when I don't have like a building to be mayor of, and I have maybe like a boyfriend or husband, and they hear these stories. They're like, "What?
Mayor of your own home."
My
Like
own home,
it is
of
just
the neighbor-
you in blue,
I mean,
and you're like, "Welcome."
Let's be honest. I'll live in a neighborhood and I'll create, like, instead of a homeowners association, it's going to be like a homeowners party association. And I'll be like,
HOPA, HOPA,
Hopa.
HOPA.
President of the local TikTok association.
Oh my god.
But no, Kyle, speaking of TikTok, introduce yourself. Where can people find you? What's your deal? What's your relationship status?
Okay, so my relationship status is single. You can find me on social media. My handle is Calamity Kyle across the board. I've got kind of a following on TikTok.
He says modestly.
We're creeping up there. 80,000 followers.
Cash. As of this recording, which is pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the next couple months. I'd like to get to 100,000 before the end of the year, but we'll see.
I think that's a reasonable goal for you, having seen your content.
Yeah, and it takes like one video, really, and it just snowballs and goes and goes and goes.
For those who don't yet follow you, why should they follow you? Why is everybody following you? What is your, like, TikTok niche?
I guess my calling card is cooking. I do a lot of cooking. There's some other stuff thrown in there, like just lifestyle stuff or like cleaning my apartment. But yeah, I do like really ASMR style cooking. You can just hear the sounds of the knife cutting the food and the sizzles. And
Yep.
my signature thing is I give a thumbs up at the end of every video. That was good.
I love that for you.
Thank you.
I was just thinking if I posted videos of me cleaning my apartment, so many people would just be triggered by the state of it to start with.
Like me walking in
Like
earlier, I was like, oh, when you said that you had to clean today, like had to clean, you meant you had to clean. And Kyle, I'm so glad that your place is beautiful and clean, and you have a lovely like throw blanket and pillows.
And
yes.
lots of plants. You're a plant daddy.
I'm a plant daddy. And you can see this like white fuzzy stuff is just taking over everywhere. It's like on my bed and on my couch, and it's so soft. And
I love it.
But yeah, no. Michelle, I've been told by several people that your apartment is worse than most men's.
It's a war zone.
We're working on it, okay? We're working on it. But yeah, typically it's not. It's there's just stuff everywhere. I'm just very busy. And then I just sleep.
Bitch, I'm busy
clean.
too.
Yeah, but you're like OCD and busy.
That's also true.
You can't leave the house if your place isn't clean, and I'm just like, catch you later, mess. But yeah, so now that we've, fully outed me on my apartment, Kyle, so yes, you have a cooking TikTok. Obviously, though, we're not cooking today, so we wanted to bring you on to share kind of some of your experiences we've talked about. Do you want to just kind of like dive into maybe your story of coming out and what that looked like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I am 31 years old. I didn't come out till I was 25. My family is very conservative, very Republican, very Trumpy, very gag.
You're from Texas, right?
Yes, born and raised. San Antonio, right down that way.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandparents are from like West Virginia, and so needless to say, like being gay wasn't one of those things you're just like, oh hey, by the way. But no, when I was 25, I like got on Tinder for the first time, and I met a guy, and we had started dating, and I was like, okay, well if this is gonna be anything, I've got to like come to terms with this, and figure out how to navigate this. And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, Mom, I have something to tell you. I've been seeing someone. And she's like, okay, what's his name? And I was like, what? And she's like, honey. And I was she's like,
Moms
I
know.
They know. They know. And so I told my mom and my sister and my close group of friends. And then I was going to tell my dad on the day that Obama passed the gay marriage bill. I was like, this is it. This is the time. And we're listening to the radio. We worked in a food truck, and we would drive to our gigs every morning, and he's listening to talk radio, and they're talking about it, and he's like, saying all his shit. I'm just like, maybe not. And so then later that day, we ended up getting into an argument. I think he was trying to get me to stay at work later, and I had a date. And I was just like, no, I'm not working. I'm going over to my boyfriend's house. And he was just like, oh, okay. And it was like, I don't know, it was like weird at first, but he's pretty chill about it now. But yeah, and then later that night I went home and I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I posted it on Facebook. And I was like, well, today is the best day of any days to let everyone know, but yeah, I'm gay. And it's been like a very, what's the word? Awakening experience, I guess. I feel like for the first time, you can kind of come to terms with who you are and still navigate the person that you tried to be for so long, and try and figure out what parts of those like are actually you and what parts of those were a facade. So, but yeah, it's been a good 6 years. I've done a lot of living and a lot of learning and a lot of dating. Some of it great, some of it not so great, and yeah, here we are.
And so, I mean, well, you dropped a bomb on your dad.
I did.
Which honestly, if you're a little nervous about something, I feel like that's the best way to do it. It's just like, okay, throw it and then like run away.
Yeah.
Like go to the date, okay?
Exactly.
It's over. So and you said he's like kind of cool with it now. What was like his initial reaction? Just like pure shock?
He was just like, "Are you being serious right now?" And I was like, "Yes," and I'm leaving. And I I left. And he texted me later. He's like, "Yeah, you're my son. I love you no matter what." Blah, blah, blah. So I mean, my parents and my family were a lot more receptive than I thought they would be. But yeah, even then, like the other day, my dad said something about my lifestyle, and I'm like, "Oh, Father, it's not a lifestyle." And like my mom, she's very supportive, but she'll ask questions like, "So are you the man in the relationship?" And I'm like, "Mother, we're both men. Like, if you want to get into sexual logistics, we can, but I'm not sure we want to open that can of worms right now."
I am dying to do like a gender roles episode. That's so basically they're asking you the questions that like on social media are like literally posts about these are the things to not ask people.
Exactly. Yes. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, I could have had it a lot worse. A lot of people do, so I'm really thankful for that. My grandparents, I thought were gonna be a lot worse about it, but my grandfather's just like, I'm not going to come to your wedding, and I don't want to meet your special friends, was what he told me the first time. And then I was dating a guy for like 2 years. We lived together. And one year he was like, well, if your buddy wants to come over for Christmas.
Aww.
And I was like, it's a step in the right direction. So, yeah.
You're like, you won't acknowledge that it's more than a friend, but you're acknowledging the person. So you gotta, hey, when someone's had things ingrained in their brains for 50, 60, 70 years, you gotta accept those baby steps. I have a question. So, like, when, and maybe it's not a when, because I feel like it's probably like a process, but like, did it take you maybe longer to admit to yourself or to like announce to yourself and kind of own being gay, or do you feel like just with having that kind of like family pressure and background, or like when do you feel like you knew?
So I feel like I've always known.
Okay.
Like since I was young. Like Batman and Robin. Like it's like a quintessential meme. I forget the actor's name, but he's like in the muscle suit and he's Robin, and everyone's like, that was my gay awakening. I was like, yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, I've always known. And growing up, I grew up like in the church, in the Methodist church, which we could go on for hours about, but we won't. But I remember like trying to pray the gay away because it felt like it wasn't right. It felt like it wasn't okay. So coming to terms with the fact that it was okay was the hardest part. But I must have been like, I don't know, maybe 20 or 21 by the time I was like, listen, I am an adult. I'm going to think for myself. I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to listen to what this book says is right or wrong. I'm going to figure it out on my own. And once I kind of accepted that, I was like, it was kind of like the first step in the process. And, you start exploring sexually in secret and getting on Grindr and Scruff and, move to Tinder. It's like, if you're going to have anything substantial besides sex, people are going to know about it. So, yeah, you kind of have to. You can't really maintain a relationship if you're not open with yourself about who you are.
What was that like first relationship like, especially as you were like still just coming out to your family? Some people that I've spoken to who like have been out for a very long time, they struggle dating people who have recently come out. So I'm just curious, like how was he too within the relationship? Going through that too.
Toxic.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, it was not a good relationship. But I was naive. It was the first person I had ever dated, my first like meaningful relationship. And so, you get a case of like the being too clingy and like trying to move too fast. And like a lot of things on my end, I was still figuring out. He was there for every step of that journey and knew what was going on. And our relationship ended because one of his side pieces sent me videos of the two of them.
No.
Yeah. And he's like, I went through his phone when he was in the shower. I found your contact info along with 6 other people he's been doing this with. So just thought I should let you know. Yeah. So
this wasn't the one you were living with, right?
No.
Oh, praise.
That's a whole nother story.
Also, I love that whoever this is went through the phone.
I know.
I love that. And I love that they told you, like, you better watch this guy.
And I was like, fuck. Because you always have a suspicion when someone's not, like, being faithful.
100%.
And you're just like, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. So, especially being like first relationship, I felt like the world was crumbling around me, but we're stronger because of it.
You got through it.
Yeah, we know what we will and will not tolerate.
I mean, it's fine. I feel like it's just gonna be tracks of me like
in the background,
plummeting from the background. Yeah, that's super interesting, and I feel like it's actually not shocking that first relationship did end up being kind of toxic, because I think when you're, again, kind of coming to terms with yourself and building that confidence and like you said, figuring out who you are as this out gay man, there's a lot of probably what you were presenting before that you were having to kind of like break through and work through. So I think when you're in a position like that and you're kind of vulnerable, like it's easy to end up in a situation that's not truly like ideal. Plus, I mean, being younger too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I had another question around that. So like in, let's say like high school, right, where people typically are like exploring kind of sexuality, were you trying to see guys and date and do things in secret, or were you just kind of, did you ever date girls?
Not at all. I wasn't until I like moved away for college when I was like, okay, I'm away from everyone. I can have fun, like fresh slate. And that's when I first started like exploring sexually. And it was always just like little one night stands, usually with older guys.
Interesting.
Yeah. Before the apps, there was a website. I think it was called Squirt.
Squirt?
Yeah. It was like one of the first GPS based like hookup apps. Yeah, that was a thing.
Oh my. What was the other? You mentioned Tinder, Grinder, and one other one that I hadn't heard of before too.
So there's Scruff and Growler.
Scruff.
Yeah.
Growler I've heard of. I've never heard of Scruff.
So
Tell me more.
Scruff is like a hybrid between Growler and Grinder. Grinder is just kind of like anyone is just like they're DTF. Like that's what they're on the app for. You get a lot of torsos.
Like Tinder for straight people.
Yes. And you get all shapes and sizes. Growler obviously is more geared towards the bear community. And Scruff is just like a happy medium between the two. That's the one I usually get on if I get on. I haven't been on in a few months, but yeah, Scruff. Scruffy man.
For those who aren't familiar with the term, would you describe what a bear is? Just high level.
A bear is like a bigger guy that's hairy.
that feels right.
I've also heard it said that the bear is the gay equivalent to the dad bod.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's so many different variations of bear. You've got muscle bears, you've got daddy bears, you've got silver bears. So we could talk about this all day, but I mean, yeah.
What's your favorite type of bear?
I like all bears.
Ooh, we don't discriminate.
I like all men. That's like what's the Lizzo song? The boys. I like boys. But if I had to pick a type, like somewhere in between, like ripped muscle daddy and like eats tacos.
So
like belly and big arms.
Okay, all
beard.
right. Like cares just enough to like get himself to the gym, but still likes to reward himself with a beer after.
Like he'll go to a brewery and like knock back 6 beers with me.
Love that.
Yeah.
I feel like definitely similar. Like I don't want you to bitch if I'm like, hey, let's go do something active, but also I don't want you to bitch if I'm like, hey, I'm gonna eat an entire pizza. Like, are you in or out? Like we're having cheese fries for dinner. Like, are you in or out? Like I'm not trying to deal with some judgment while you're eating a little side salad while I'm eating my fucking double cheeseburger.
Yeah, not to go down that rabbit hole, but like I don't know if we talked about it on the show because this would have been like last summer. But one of our friends, she had gone out on a date with this guy who was telling her the calories in a chip as they had like chips and salsa.
No.
I would.
Yes.
I would lose it.
I
would lose it.
That is not cool, not healthy.
No. My cousin, she's in a great relationship now, but she used to submit a lot of stuff to my old podcast. And she sent us this story about a date she went on, and they're at Trudy's. The guy invited her to go to Trudy's.
I love Trudy's.
And he decides not to eat because nothing on the menu is, in his diet. And so she.
Oh, no.
Before you finish the story, first of all, you can order a side of grilled chicken and some veggies at any fucking restaurant. You could get grilled chicken in the drive-thru at Whataburger. So I don't want to hear that if you're on, like, I used to have, like, I just want to say, you can get grilled chicken, which is in everybody's fucking diet, who's on, like, a strict plan. So that's offensive.
Also, like, just don't go to that restaurant. Like, go to some sort of weird, like, vegan healthy shit restaurant. Like, don't go to Trudy's.
Go to Cava or something.
Trudy's, like, in its nature. It, like, Trudy's and, what's the other, Tex-Mex too? But, like, it's heavy. It's cheese. It's cheese. It is cheese and margaritas. And it's wonderful. I mean, it's not a let's eat this every day because you'll be sick, but
I could.
it is not where you go if you are on a diet. Moral of the story.
I feel like that ties into, okay, we're going to do a dating best practices expectation setting episode because I feel like there's a lot of things around that, but like communicating like expectations or needs, right? So if you are like I used to coach CrossFit. I've done like nutrition, can't tell now, but did like nutrition coaching and planning, meal planning, and my ex competed and all that kind of stuff. So like had friends that were bodybuilders, so was very big in that community. The thing about it is like you just communicate, hey, I'm prepping for a show. Can we do this, or that instead of a meal?
Totally. And like you can, I mean, also a lot of people who are on diets, like listen to Jared Freed, like you get a cheat day. Honestly, like I think one of the things about dieting too, not that I'm like a nutritionist or anything, but it's like people will go on like this hardcore fucking thing and then they lose it because it's so, you're depriving yourself of so much shit you want. You do that in relationships sometimes too, I think. As we go down this rabbit hole of food.
That's a very apt metaphor, 100%. Like, I'm the kind of person, if I go in, I go my all in, and, you know, maybe that's too much. Maybe you gotta have a cheat day.
Oh. Have you heard of the hall pass concept? Like, have you ever there's a movie, there's a comedy with that one guy called Hall Pass. I love that every time I talk about a movie, I can never remember who's in it. But yeah, no, it's called
like
Hall Pass.
An exemption.
It's like, oh, you know, if I see so and so, then I can sleep with them. Usually it's a famous person.
Like a celebrity.
Like if I would take a hall pass for Taylor Swift.
Oh, 100%. I would be straight for Taylor Swift.
Cheers.
Oh man. Well, that kind of segues into what we wanted to talk about also, which was open relationships.
Before we dive into your story, which is much more important, I have a recent experience with this that I'd like to share. It's actually a short story, even though y'all know how I like to talk. But yeah, so we're gonna dive into open relationships a little bit, and I mean, full disclaimer, that's your thing, that's awesome. If that's not your thing, that's awesome.
Zero judgment here.
Zero judgment.
We don't yuck your yum.
I like that term. Just like
don't yuck someone else's yum. Have you never heard that? I love it.
I don't know.
It's got an alliteration. It's simple, short, and sweet.
I don't know why I struggle with that term. Like that term just doesn't.
I don't like gooching and scooching either.
I also don't like busty.
So you do yuck yums.
So I'm just a judgmental bitch with a me, why am I single? Apparently I'm a judgmental bitch with a dirty house and bad taste in men.
Woof. Anyways.
Sorry, Mom.
Back to open relationships.
Actually, Daniela Hannah's going to listen to this and she's going to text me and be like, should I send you a cleaner?
She 100%.
She'll be like, I'm embarrassed.
She will fly out just to clean your place. Like, she will fly out and do it herself.
But, so, Maria and I were out doing karaoke the other night, having a grand old time. And I would also like to say for the record, it was Marie's idea. I wish there was like a video recording.
I love karaoke. Okay, I will do that. If you want to get me out, that is the way. Come on, Marie, let's do karaoke.
Well, we're going to have to find a new karaoke bar.
Little Woodrow's karaoke room.
Oh, I didn't know they had one.
We like free karaoke.
Oh, but wait, is it? Oh, okay. I have mixed feelings about private karaoke. Anyways.
But so we're out. We end up just kind of like hanging out. We're chatting with some guys. Kind of hit it off with one of them. He and I end up talking, and he's like, "Yeah, like I'm want to be like fully honest. I'm in an open relationship." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, kind of have to process that. But I was like, "We're hanging out, whatever." So like him and I had continued talking over the next few days, flirting, whatever. We went out once. And then literally, like, the next day after we'd gone out, he's like, so I have bad news. And he was like, my partner doesn't want to be open anymore.
Wait, you didn't tell me that.
Oh, I didn't?
No.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me any of this part of the story. I didn't even know you saw him again after karaoke. Bitch!
Yeah. So we hung out. But yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, this feels shitty. Like, I wasn't really sure how I felt about the situation, but I was trying to be open-minded. But then I was like, something about this whole dynamic feels shitty. Like, I think, because
Like, you feel like a side piece.
well, and I just feel like, okay, so they didn't actually they weren't established in what open is, right? Because the biggest thing with open that I've heard and like talked about is like you have to have very, very clear communication like rules or
Boundaries.
boundaries, all of that. And so for it to be like, yeah, we're open, da da da. I'm like, okay, so you can hang out with other people, like whatever. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, sure, let's hang out. And then yeah, literally the next day it's like, oh, I have bad news. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I didn't really expect to be dealing with like all this drama, da da da. And I'm just like, this feels really fucking shit. Like this, I was like, this is like a new level of shitty.
It's like you got broken up with, but you weren't really together. And the other like there's some competition, I feel like, aspect to that.
And like I don't feel like he was being dishonest about them being open in that like situation, but I also kind of felt like played a little bit or lied to. Like it was a weird thing for me to process. And so I was like, cool. And he's like, yeah, but like if we can still hang out as friends. I'm like, no.
Not after.
No,
it doesn't work like that, honey.
So that was also part of why I was like, oh, we got to do an episode on open relationships. And then along comes Kyle.
I was going to say, I like met a guy who was also in an open relationship. This was before I met you, Michelle. And we met at this like also like the place that you probably would expect to see people in open relationships.
A sex party?
Close. No. No, it wasn't. It was like a Halloween party. It was my birthday. There were like a lot of like black lights and people in like really slutty costumes and lots of drugs, and yeah, it was a vibe. And so yeah, this guy was like talking to me for a while, and like we were making out at the party. And there was a point where he was like, oh, yeah, and just so you know, like, I am in an open relationship. So I will say, like, one of the things I do really respect is they probably communicate much better and much more frequently than people in monogamous relationships, like, just based on what I've heard.
In theory, yes.
In theory.
That's how they would work.
Well, if it's a functioning open relationship.
Yes, a healthy one.
Yeah, just based on like other things I've read, other people's stories too. But it was really interesting because then he texted me the next day and he was like, okay, well, here are the options. Basically, like if we want to like remain in each other's lives. And he like wanted to go out on dates. And I was like, oh, honey, I don't want to date you. Like, this was a one night stand and I was not impressed. So
they're like full on like poly then at that point. Like he's wanting to like date other people as well. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and he was fully married to her.
Okay.
Like he had a ring.
Wow. So I mean, I'm kind of ignorant to a lot of it as well because I've dabbled in open relationships and we'll get there, but I know that there's like a term kitchen table poly, which to my understanding is
never heard that.
Like people who like are wanting to be in like triads or like date like a couple who wants to date someone else, or like date other people on their own. But then there's also a form of open relationship that I don't know what it's called, where it's strictly sexual. I mean, you have your emotional connection with your person, and you go on dates with your person. You're in a relationship, but you sleep with other people, and it's strictly physical.
Yeah, one of the chick that did my tattoo, my Taylor Swift lyric tattoo, she was kind of telling me like she almost had different partners that serve like different needs. Like the one that was coming in and out as I was getting it done was kind of her like her main, like her housemate, I think is what she called her, which I find fascinating. Also like very accurate, I think. Like when you rely on one person for everything, whether it's monogamous or not, like that's, I mean, now you're completely codependent to that person. So there always has to be, whether it's a friend and a platonic thing, different people serve different needs.
Yes, and I very much so am of the mindset that like it's not fair to fully rely on someone. When you have an established partnership, yes, you can lean on each other when need be, but it takes, two whole people to make a whole relationship, not two half people to complete each other.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Wait, can you repeat that and will you record that on little video? Because that was like probably one of the best quotes we've ever had on this podcast.
No pressure.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but it takes, it takes two whole people to make a whole relationship, not two halves of the people to complete each other. I mean, you have to.
One more time.
You have to.
It didn't start on time.
Okay. So you have to be. Now it's gonna sound too forced.
No, I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna be my quote. I'm gonna go viral for Kyle.
We'll just take
It's
that
okay.
sound bite.
We'll just take the sound bite.
Yeah, I'm distracted now. I forgot.
Sorry. So you were saying it takes two people basically. Like you
Right,
have to
it's-
be a whole person
Yes.
versus like a broken person just sounds harsh.
Yeah,
You
and
said
not
it
even
much more
broken, just, like,
eloquently.
You have to be 100% comfortable with yourself, and you have to be the best version of yourself and be able to present that to someone rather than being fragmented or not fully put back together after your last relationship. Because if you go into something new not wholly yourself, you're putting so much extra strain on whoever you're with, because you're projecting, you're not comfortable with yourself, so you're insecure, you've got anxiety and all of this stuff. I mean, I'm rambling at this point.
No, I mean I think there's so much truth to that. So I mean, and so for that reason, like I can kind of understand. Well, not really that reason, but I can understand why people like. I can understand polyamory. I can understand open relationships. Not 100% sure that it's like the right fit for me personally. Remember when I tried to date that guy who was poly, Michelle?
Wait, was that the serial killer?
That was serial killer.
What?
Wait, was he poly?
Yeah, he was polyamorous. And I was
I
like,
don't know if I knew that. I feel like you withheld that piece of information until later.
I was like, I want to be your I want to be your girlfriend, but fine. I don't know why. I mean,
I think.
and then he ghosted me. So
I think it's. Yeah.
that's another
That's
story for
another
another
story.
show.
But no, I think it is trying to be open, and I think too also is we like the constructs of relationship, the purpose of a relationship, marriage, family, all of that has changed so much over the last 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And so I think at least for me, there are these things that have been instilled in my head, and trying to figure out, is that something that's just been instilled in me, or is that what I want? Is that what's the right fit for me? And like, I think people our age are we're in this weird transitional period in
We're in limbo.
in like romantic dating, marriage, familial like culture, where like so many people now are deciding not to have kids. And 15 years ago, if you said you weren't going to have kids, people were like
Flabbergasted.
what? Or now we have like gay couples having kids, right? And people 10 years ago, so it's just like we're in such an interesting transition that I think the idea of monogamy and the purpose it served 100 years ago versus now and things like that, like I think it's all just not up for debate, but up for like exploration in a sense for most people.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree 100%. I mean, I went down the road.
Tell us a little more about that.
So one of my like more serious relationships, we dated for like 2.5 years. We lived together. He was bisexual and had kids from a wife. But when we got together, he made it very clear, like, hey, like, I am into guys, but I also like women, and I can't always get what I want from having sex with a guy. So
fair.
And I was like, okay. I was like, that's something I can't offer. Like, I don't have a vagina. I have man boobs, but I don't have titties. Like if you gotta go get that somewhere else, that's fine. He was open and honest with it from the get-go.
Yeah.
We had a very healthy relationship talking about it. And then it got to the point where we were living together, and I'm like, who are you texting? And he's like, oh, this chick from Tinder. And I'm like, what? And it's like, he was like planning dates with her, and like, I was very cool with it up until this point. Like, I would even drive him to booty calls, like, and just sit outside in the car and play on my phone, wait for him to come back, and like,
yes. What? Yes. You just waited for him?
Yes.
But, sorry, okay, I want to get back to this girl on Tinder, but like, okay, number one, he didn't take himself or Uber?
It was one night we were drinking at home, and he was much more drunk than I was. And he's like, I kind of want to get on Tinder. And I was like, okay, let's swipe. And I was like, no. I was like, oh, she's cute. And
You picked the girl?
we would swipe
I kind of
together.
love
Yeah,
that.
It was fun. I mean, when you have the honest communication and you know what's going on, it can be fun. It's almost kind of a turn on. Like, yeah, go do that with her and then come home to me. Like,
Well, and it makes you like a part of it.
exactly. And so yeah, he was like kind of drunk, and he's like, I want to go hang out with her, but I don't think I should drive. And I was like, I'll take you. And I drove him over there and parked and waited for, I don't know, I think it was like 45 minutes. He came back out, and I was like, let's go home. And then we went home and had sex.
Damn, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
Michelle and I are both like, wow.
in a perfect world, if you've got trust and communication with your partner, that works.
Yeah.
But the second he betrayed that trust, he went down a venture on his own, didn't communicate with me what he was doing, and that was an immediate red flag.
Well, I think that's the misconception when it comes to open relationships too, is like that you can't cheat.
Right.
And you still can, because at the end of the day, like, cheating is dishonesty.
Yeah, because my whole thing is we've got an emotional connection. You're having a physical connection with these girls, and you're making it very known. You're just going over there to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
But this chick he was like flirting with and texting, like moved off of the app and was like planning dates and stuff. And I'm like, no. Like, if you're not into this, then you're not into this.
Well, those are your boundaries, right? Like, those are your standards. Like, yeah, you can be physical, but like, I'm your relationship.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like that comes down to the like quote unquote like contract that you have, your boundaries, whatever spelled out. Like, again, where it does have to be very specific, because like at least in like our line of work, agency wise, you have a scope of work, right, which is the contract. And if things aren't outlined very specifically, there's a whole lot of gray area. And there's a term called scope creep. And I feel like in this sense, there's like boundary creep, right? Where it's like, depending on your conversations before, maybe you exclusively said, and like when I was talking to that guy, I asked him, I was like, what are your rules? Like, can you hang out with someone that you're like having a not like necessarily emotional connection, but like, oh, we're flirting, we're hitting it off, or is it strictly physical?
Dating versus fucking.
What is your, and trying to understand like that scope so that you do understand that like scope creep or that like boundary creep. And it sounds like in this case, what you either had agreed to or thought was different than what was happening. And I love but Maria, I love what you said, where people don't think you can like cheat in an open relationship, because that is such a big misconception. Because again, it's like you are breaking your contract.
To me, I feel like an emotional affair is more of a betrayal than a physical one. Honestly,
Totally, 100%.
I've been putting time and effort into building this family, helping with your kids.
Ooh,
And
yeah, that's a whole
yeah. And to be
whole
fair,
can of worms.
to be fair, I was not perfect in the relationship either. I feel like hardly anyone is perfect. But I mean, there was a lot going on prior to that, but there could have been fixed with a conversation or like, hey, and that just started the whole downward spiral. Obviously, we're not together anymore.
Yeah.
But he did bring me to Austin, so I'm thankful for that.
The platonic love of your life.
Don't you have him like saved in your phone as gay husband or something?
He's Kyle, my boo.
Yeah, same
and
thing.
I think I have Lindsay as Lindsay, my wife. And
Yeah.
you're just Maria R. Carlson.
Wait, I'm not still all like in caps. I was all in caps.
I'll have to. I think I had to resave your name.
Oh,
It's fine. I'll give you something.
okay.
I'll give you a little something. But no, I think that's really interesting, and also like appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable about that.
Yeah,
because,
definitely.
Like,
but all of it.
I would assume though that was like kind of devastating. So from the point where you're in this, you're hanging out, he's talking to this girl, he's playing these dates on Tinder, like what happened from there?
Well, I confronted him about it. He was like putting the kids to bed, and his phone just went off, and I started doing my thing, which had been an argument many a time.
As one does.
He would get mad.
It's on the counter.
Well, okay, here's the thing. He would get mad if I went through his phone, yet he gave me his passcode and would leave his phone unattended. And we're not supposed to have any secrets. So why are you mad if I'm going through it?
That's exactly like if you're mad that even if I just casually look over and see something because obviously anytime a screen lights up, you look.
You're like, hey, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you looking?
Your brain literally like does that. Even if that's something that you get mad about, like that means you have something to hide.
Yeah, and it
means what you're doing is fucked too.
Little things like that. But no, I just confronted him. I was like, hey, once you put the kids down, like let's step out back. We need to talk. And he's like, what? And I was like, we'll talk about it in a minute. And he came back out, and I was just like, hey, I went through your phone, yell all you want, be mad. I was like, but this isn't cool. I was like, we had an agreement. You asked me what the threshold was, and I said, never lie to me. And you are. And we tried to work things out. We were still living together at the point. We had like 3 months left in our lease. And he was working for me at the restaurant as well.
Oh, no.
It was very entangled. It was not the best situation. Another learning experience. But at the end of our lease, he's like, he's from Austin. He's like, I need to move back to Austin. And me in my desperation, trying to make the relationship work, I was like, I'll move to Austin too. He's like, well, I need my own place because I still haven't finalized my divorce. Ooh, plot twist. Yes. And I was like,
with a woman or a man?
Woman.
We're gonna circle back.
Baby mama, I assume.
Finish this story, and then I'm gonna talk about that because
that's a whole other story. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, he was like, if you want to come to Austin, that'd be awesome. And I was like, that's a big commute for me. I own a restaurant in San Antonio, but fuck it, let's do it. And I got my own place in South Austin. I was living like William Cannon in 35.
Ew.
I know. I loved it there when I moved here. I was like, I'm so close to everything. And then I moved over here, and I'm like, I'm really close to everything. But yeah, no, we moved up here, and after about a month of being in our own apartments, he got a job where he had to travel during the week, which was the only time we would have had to hang out because he's got the kids on the weekend. And they had no idea who I was in the scope of his life. I was a roommate.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, explaining that to, I don't know how old they were.
At the time, 5 and 7.
I don't know how you would explain that to a child, but also, ugh.
Yeah, it was a thing. But yeah, we were here for like a month, and he came over one night to cook dinner, and we're just like sitting there like eating like in silence, and I was like, this isn't really working out anymore, is it? And he's like, no, it's not. And I was like, and it was very amicable. It wasn't.
You tried.
Yeah, I was like, I gave it my best effort. I moved to a new city, but yeah, I'm not mad about it ending because I spent like a year getting to know myself again, and I'm very comfortable being single. And I just recently started dating again. There's like 1 or 2 kind of rotating around. I don't really know what's going on, but yeah.
My heart, like, it just went when you would talk about that, though, because, like, I had almost that, like, exact same moment when I went through my, like, serious breakup because there were a lot different factors and different things, but it was where you're just, like, you're sitting there and you're, like, not communicating and you're just having, like, a really weird thing, and it's just, like, what's up?
Yeah.
Where are we? And, my ex finally was like, shared where he was at, and it was a little bit like surface level shocking to me. Like, I think in my heart, I had known for a couple of months that like we were on that path, but like where my head was at, it was like a shock to me. Cause to me, it's like you either, after a certain amount of time, you work on things or you have conversations or there's like, you do this or that, or there was just never a like, hey, I mean, of course, like typical straight man, right? Like he's not gonna like bring up his feelings. He's just gonna process them on his own. And then, if things don't change when there's no communication around it, but just like that moment where it's like, okay, like this is where we are. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not like heartbreaking and hard and like still something where you have to like work through that.
Even when it is like an amicable thing and you both are on the same page that it needs to end, it's still heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, I didn't cry until like a week later. And it took something as small as seeing like an orange car like his drive down the highway, and I was just like, I'm never gonna ride in that orange car again.
That's probably good.
Yeah, probably.
Gross. Yeah. For cars.
If this ever like came across his circle, he'd be like, "My car is Tangerine Pearl. How many times do I have to tell you?"
Oh my god, I'm dead.
So, but no, I had a point, but I lost it.
What would you say is your biggest piece of advice to someone who wants to explore an open relationship, whether they're already with someone or not? Just like high level, someone's like, I think I could be poly or open. I like the idea of that, the concept, but they maybe haven't done it. What would you say your biggest piece of advice or like tips are for that?
I feel like we've hit on this a lot, but it's just the big thing is communication. You have to communicate with your partner what you're feeling, what you want, what your expectations are, and what your boundaries are. And I think if you have that level of communication and you have a level of trust in your partner, then go for it. I mean, and if it turns out you guys don't like it and you have that level of
That's
communication
fine.
to have even tried it, that's fine. You can go back to being monogamous. I mean, no one says it's a commitment or a lifelong contract.
Well, and that goes for people in monogamous relationships too.
100%.
Communication. I think Michelle and I harp on that a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, communication is the key to any healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think too, it reminds me of like if you are in a monogamous relationship, it's like, but maybe one of you is a very like charismatic, flirty person that likes to talk to strangers at the bar. But
I don't know anybody like that.
But like understanding, understanding where those boundaries are. Like it's something that I think about because I've gotten very, very comfortable being single, and in my past relationship, I had to be pretty reserved. I was very reserved because my partner was.
That's
very
hard to
reserved,
envision.
And yeah. I used to be home watching like movies on a Friday night.
That's horrifying.
Are you feeling? Yeah, and you're like, are you feeling okay? But it's something that I think about in terms of like truly understanding. Hey, for me, for like a future partner, it's like, hey, if I am sitting at the bar at Fraser's by myself, having a drink, hanging out, chatting, like. If I do start hitting, to me, like, I think the boundary is, like, I wouldn't give someone my number or my contact info. Mm-hmm. That's, like, the thing. But it's, like, if I was dating someone that they were, like, if you're smiling and laughing and having an extended conversation with someone, that makes me uncomfortable.
How dare you have fun?
Well, no, but I mean, but there's also, like, if the other person is taking it as flirting, right? Even if I'm just talking, that's a consideration. And I think it's, like, I feel like not most, but a lot of straight monogamous couples don't actually ever talk through those boundaries because they don't think about it maybe in advance. So then something happens and then there's a fight and it's never like clear because there isn't a conversation around that.
Yeah, like, oh, you doing this makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
And I mean, there definitely could be a lot more of that.
Are we starting a movement?
Yeah, let's do it.
The Michelle movement. Why does that make me think about pooping?
Because that's all you and I talk about off air.
Pooping is a beautiful thing.
It is.
Oh my god, I should. If you guys don't have a bidet, you really need one.
I do not. My friends swear by one though.
Jared Freed has a bidet sponsorship.
I know. Our hero.
Our favorite comedian. The one who did my cameo. We're obsessed. Man, I feel like I'm stoked. I feel like we've covered a lot of actually like really important shit today.
Yeah, this has been like kind of deep.
I'm excited to hear the final product.
On that note, any final thoughts, plugs?
Go follow me on TikTok, Calamity Kyle, CALAMITY KYLE.
And he's also on Instagram. And who knows, by the time this comes out, maybe elsewhere. We'll be promoting him. We're getting him some sponsors. So if you're interested in collaborations or sponsorships, I'm taking over managing your thing. Come find him.
Michelle is just everybody's like marketing, PR, networking person. I was telling my like whatever life coach or whatever the fuck she is, my dream manager coach. That's another thing. I was telling her
life coach or whatever the fuck her job is.
No, she's great. I love her. But I was telling her about like the podcast and like we're talking about how to monetize it, and she's like, well, and what else? And I was like, well, networking, but I'm not as good at that as Michelle is.
Have y'all done merch yet?
No, we've been talking about it since day one.
I wonder if we can do. Okay, we might be able to do merch through my new company. It might be like volume and expense beyond what we want to do, but good
TBD,
question.
TBD.
Oh, do you have a merch hookup?
I do.
Okay, we'll talk about it. We've been talking about it for a while. Fuck, maybe that's what we launch in 2022.
That's a fucking that's better than sponsorships.
I had a really funny idea the other day for a t-shirt and I didn't write it down. Here we are. Bubbles and Bussies.
Bubbles and Bussies. Can that be the name of the episode?
No, but we can put that on a crops tee for you.
Oh my god.
So that we can show your belly button on TikTok.
Yes. The crop tees are coming back for the guys, and I'm here for it.
Anyways, if you've made it this far, we hope you've enjoyed Kyle's stories. We definitely have. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This has been a blast.
This has been so much fun.
Technically, you hosted us.
Honestly, yeah. We'll have the charcuterie for some of these promos. It'll be super fun. We'll have like a mini party when we release. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just my creative brain is flowing. I think it's I think it's because I finally put a notice in my company.
Or the bubbles.
or
It's
that.
a combo. Go ahead. Just wrap it up.
Anyways, thank you, Kyle, for being here. And for those of you who don't follow us yet, please do slide into our DMs at Swipe and the City everywhere. And Michelle, where can people find you?
Emma Craig PDX on Instagram and possibly TikTok in the near future.
And I am at Maria R. Carlson on any platform that I exist on.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.